I shopped around, and there's lots of companies out there, but what I liked about pdfFiller is that the price was right. It had everything we needed. It seemed to be pretty user friendly. 95% of what we do, it's a blessing. And so we started this company, and I really started it with the philosophy of not having an office, doing everything virtual, which is what I was preaching for the last several years as the director of the other agency, that we are operating was out of control. And the amount of money we were spending on offices and buildings and copiers and paper made no sense to me. So we started this agency, and all we do here is what we call adult developmental homes. And that is adults with cognitive or developmental disabilities. They live with families instead of living in group homes. So some of our folks can't live independently, but instead of putting them into a group home, which are not the best places in the world, some of them are wonderful, but most of them are not. And this way they get to live with families, and it's a wonderful service. For bigger agencies, it's not a real profitable service because a lot of your money comes in and goes right back out to the families. So you have to keep your overhead really low to make any money. And so I was actually sitting in a meeting at one point with the previous company right before I left, and they were, Rex, why is your developmental home side of the company losing 25% every month? And we can't continue to do this. And, and I remember telling them, I was like, guys, if I was going to start my own company, this is the service I would do. I wouldn't have an office. I wouldn't have everything that we have. And we could pay the families more. And that was kind of the kicker. They said, you have to reduce the rate you're going to pay the families because we need our profit margins up. And I said, well, if I reduce their amount of money, they're just going to go to another agency, and we already don't pay them enough. And so after my speech, the CFO looked over and says, well, I think maybe you should just go and do that, Rex. Another person from the company walked up to me and said, are you serious about this, Rex? And I said, yeah, only if we can do it with no offices, virtually, do everything, in the cloud. And so we did it. So we've done it for about 3 years, and we're essentially full. We pay our families in the state of Arizona more than anybody else. So we have a lot of people knocking on our doors, wanting the service. So we're very, very picky about who we bring in. And we're all old fogies. And so we're real picky about who we bring in as well. And it has been a wonderful, wonderful thing. I should have done it years and years ago. We sit and kind of pinch ourselves all the time going, my God, the best thing that ever happened to us is this other company going under. And we've been able to make a real difference in the state of Arizona with services as well. So the state of Arizona appreciates what we do. We've kind of led them into doing more online. In fact, some of the things that we're doing, they have adopted now.
What are some of those things that you did and now they're doing?
The biggest one was cloud-based and going electronic. And that kind of come around because of COVID. So we started all of this just prior to COVID. And there were some questions at that point, like, well, Rex, we need to come out and look at your home, where your home office is at, to make sure that you're storing your paperwork right. And so I had to go round and round with them going, I have no paperwork. I can get on and show you everything we have online. And I had to do that. And in fact, one of the monitors doing that was so impressed that she's like, oh my God, this is so easy. I don't have to go out to somebody's house. You gave me a special access code to get in. I was able to check all your files. Everything was there. So during COVID, and that was using Google. So we use Google Drive for everything, and pdfFiller. Those are the only two programs we use.
You said you started with pdfFiller during the pandemic, right?
Actually, before the pandemic. So I did a lot of research. There's a lot of routine paperwork in this field. We're required to go out and visit families every 30 days. And one of the things used to drive me crazy was these 2 pieces of paper that the state of Arizona had. And they had them carbon copied. And somewhere along the line, this just all got to be routine. And so I said, there's no rule that says it has to be a physical piece of paper. It just says that you have to give a copy of it to the family. So, as I started looking into things, one of the things I like about pdfFiller is that, that when I send it out to be signed, so I go out and visit the families, and then as soon as we get back to the home or the office, wherever I'm at, I send them a copy of those 2 pieces of paper, and they sign it electronically, and it gives them the option to keep a copy. There's no rule that they have to keep a copy. The rule is that I just have to give them a copy. So I shopped around, and there's lots of companies out there, but what I liked about pdfFiller is that the price was right. It had everything we needed. It seemed to be pretty user friendly. 95% of what we do, it's a blessing. What
were some of the alternatives that when you were shopping around?
Well, the other thing pdfFiller does is I like the fact that I can organize PDFs in it. And I don't think you guys advertise that as much as you should, because it's a nice feature. Because if not, you really got to get Adobe or something where you end up having to download. Like I have a Mac at home that I use, and on the road I use a Chromebook. And if I had the Mac at home, I can certainly download things right onto the Mac and then rearrange it through their version of whatever they call it, View or whatever. I can do the PDFs. But you can do all of that with a few clicks on pdfFiller as well. Yeah, and so it you have to upload it and then open the file and drag things in and bring things in, but it works. And so when I'm on the road, it really comes in handy. And I can do pdfFiller from my phone, which is wonderful. And then I love it after I have a family. I see that the family assigned something. I can take that and download it right to Google Docs. It integrates so wonderfully with it.
Do you have any other employees that are using it?
We have no employees, so the families are not employees, but they're the ones that sign most of the documents and that we send most of the documents. We have about 50 families.
Were there some very specific annoying processes that you would go through? You mentioned, having using carbon copy of papers.
Well, I always knew I needed to go digital. So because almost everything we do is repeated constantly. So in this field, we have something called renewals we have to do every year. And so renewal is there's a 6-page renewal document that the families have to fill out year after year, and really very little changes. And so if I send it to them in pdfFiller and they fill it out one year, the following year I go pull it up, I duplicate it, put it as from 2021 to 2022. I send it to them. I ask them to make whatever necessary changes they need to make and then sign it. But I'm pretty amazed at how even my older families, how successful they are. If you just sit down and show them how it works and they get over that fear, they end up becoming really good users. Yeah,
it's intuitive. Is the fear usually about security, or just that they don't know how to use the technology?
Yeah, with pdfFiller, sometimes when you fill out one blank, it shoots someplace else, and so having to come back down and get into the right blank, and then I'll get a call going, I think I messed it all up. It's weird. So just taking that time with them, I get those calls quite a bit, where even in Google Docs, like, Rex, I messed everything. I try to tell them, guys, there are so many redundancies in these things that there's nothing you can do to it that I can't fix. So once they get over that fear and just get used to typing, they do a pretty decent job.
Were there still any lessons that you learned once the pandemic did hit? Did it change your idea about digital transformation, or were you already sort of fully on board? I'm wondering if there's any other lessons you learned.
I'll tell you, we just lucked out. I mean, if you say that, we had everything set up this way. And again, before the pandemic, there were still a few questions about, is the security issues? Do you really not have any paper? If I do get a piece of paper, I scan it in immediately and shred it. just getting people convinced. And then when the pandemic hit and they actually put people on lockdown and we couldn't go visit families, we had already been doing online meetings. So we'd already shown all of our families how to do Google Meets and how to sign electronic documents.
Do you have any quantitative or qualitative results?
But yes, quality of life. I am able to travel. So I'm 58 years old, and my wife and I do like to travel. I'm able to work on the beach in Hawaii and work in the mountains. I'm working at I need to do some Christmas shopping today, so I'm at the mall here in Tucson. I had to pop down for a quick meeting.
Nice.
Like I said, it's just wonderful that, I tell you, the only time consuming thing I run into every so often is because of security issues. pdfFiller is always making me re-sign in again if I'm on my phone or on my laptop. But I don't mind that. It's a security issue. It's security, so I don't mind it.
Right.
But so yeah, and that goes for all of us partners.